Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Empowering women like you to amplify your voice, your message, your movement. We believe that if 10,000 new women stepped into high-level leadership platforms, we can transform the industries across the planet. 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. And now your host, Narissa Street.
Welcome to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. You know why we're here. We're here because we are amplifying your voice while amplifying other voices. We're very excited to be able to bring to you people who are already doing the thing that you want to do, who are sharing their stories and allowing you to see that the success that you want is accessible to you. So I'm very excited to have with me, and you are going to correct me if I mispronounce your last name, Ann Faria. Did I get it right?
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you.
Yes.
One of the few.
Yes. So we met through this amazing organization, and she is going to tell us a little bit about herself and tell us more about her story. So Leanne, tell us who you are.
All right. Thank you, Narissa. Hey, everyone. So I'm Ann Faria, as Narissa so politely and eloquently said. So, I'm a person that wears many hats. You know, when I started thinking about this interview, I wasn't really sure how I was going to explain my story in a way that was succinct enough, because I feel like I've just done so many different things.
We like that.
They're not always linked to each other in a very clear sort of way.
That's okay. We like that.
I do feel like even though they seem somewhat disjointed, they do connect, and it's kind of built upon, one step is built upon another. So in my day job, I'm a speech language pathologist. I kind of came here in a roundabout sort of way. I studied music. I'm a bass player. I studied music at Berklee College of Music, got into the whole audio thing, learning how to do audio recording and editing. And I was really interested in music and sound in general, and how that it was so emotive. It brings up so much emotion, and it can communicate so much. And so I wanted, after I left Berklee, I was thinking, what do I want to do? I don't really want to be a full-time musician. It doesn't really seem like a stable job, lots of struggles. So I started thinking about how I could take this knowledge that I had about sound and put it into another perspective. So I decided that I was going to move to London and study linguistics. And yes.
I decided I was going to move to London and study linguistics. You just kind of like throw that out there like, that's what all of us do when we decide we're going to change fields. So where did that come from?
Well, I'd always been interested in languages, and I felt like language and music they're almost the same thing. Music is a language in itself, and spoken language is just another form of that. It's another form of using sound to communicate a meaning, and it's ineffective if the recipient of that does not understand what you're communicating to them. So I wanted to understand more about this communication in general, this communication through sound, and really get down to the heart of it. So I had this love of travel, and actually at the time, funny enough, and it's probably still the case, it was a whole lot cheaper to go to school internationally than it was to study in the U.S. Even as an international student, I saved myself thousands of dollars in tuition fees to move over there. And that's where I met my husband. So it definitely paid off. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. It's a funny story. Everybody asks us how we met, and it's again, just like every part of my life, it seems like this kind of convoluted way of meeting people. But you want to hear?
Of course. Of course. She's like, it's a funny story. It's convoluted.
All right.
If you know me at any point, I love a story, and I even more love a story about how you met your husband. So please
Okay.
go right ahead.
All right. So my husband's from Canada, and he was over there on a working holiday. His sister had married an Englishman, and so he was over there working and visiting his sister. And I had left Berkeley, and I had a connection. Um, a friend of a friend knew a guy named Dave who had moved to London, and Dave is from Bermuda, but his dad had married an English woman, and he had moved to London to hang out with his dad for a little while. And so my friend said, "Well, when you get to London, you have to call Dave." And I was like, "All right, this is a little weird," but I called Dave and I was like, "Hey, Dave, my name's Leanne. You don't know me. I don't know you, but I'm a friend of Dan, and Dan knows Joe, and they said, that we should hang out." And Dave, Dave was a really cool guy, and he was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll meet you. Where are you? What train stop do I get off at?" So he came down, and we met outside the Blimpie Burger place, and and he goes, you know, "I have a friend named Bruce from Canada when I went to college in Canada, and he's here too, and you guys would really get along. Can I call him?" And I was like, "All right, sure, why not? Like, why doesn't everybody come over my flat? I'm new here, I don't have friends. Sure, why not?" So he called up Bruce, and we hung out, and the whole thing just, we all just became really good friends. And eventually, Bruce and I started dating, and we got married, and many years later we're here. But yeah, that's kind of the story. It's
So it went from Joe to Dave, from Dave to Bruce. Yes?
yes.
Okay.
Yep. And from Rhode Island to Canada to Bermuda to London, it's just, yep. So so I ended up in London. I studied linguistics, graduated with a linguistics degree, and then moved back to the States. And it's funny. I ended up in the same position after leaving Berkeley. I was like, now what the heck am I supposed to do with a linguistics degree? It sounded more academic, but I was still stuck in the same position. So I started working at a veterinary clinic as a veterinary technician, and until I could figure out what my next step was. And so after a little while there, I started thinking, maybe it's either a toss up between, going on and um, pursuing an advanced degree in linguistics, and maybe teaching at a college or something at some point, or speech pathology, which is, another area of that communication piece. And so I ended up going to school for speech pathology. And, long story short, here I am. Um, but yeah, I definitely took a non-traditional path to get here. And I was definitely one of the older people in my cohort of grad school. But it was. I consider myself a lifelong learner. Honestly, I tell everybody, if I won the lottery, I would probably just go back to college
Me too.
and just learn things and do research. And I just there's
Yeah.
nothing that is more rewarding than this constant search for knowledge. It's just I love it.
Yeah, me too. I feel exactly the same way as far as, education. And, it's funny that you're saying you have the thought about the being a non-traditional age student. I was also a non-traditionally aged student, and I did the same thing. I was pursuing the thing that I loved. So I honor you in that. I understand. It must have been interesting being in the class. I know I was actually in my class. I was older than some of my teachers, so that was very interesting. So
Right. Yeah, there were a few of us that were kind of that non-traditional age, and we kind of banded together. And it's funny, your priorities are different. So it made sense. Not that, we didn't get along with the younger people, that's certainly not the case. But, when I had my first child when I was in grad school. So that's not something that I would really recommend to many people.
That's very good advice. Thank you. Okay, so here's my question. So now where you are is so we've got you all the way through grad school. You found the dude that you're hanging out with now. So what now? Where you are right now is you're the founder of a particular company. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So my passion for communication and, my skills with audio and tech, drew me to podcasting. And I started to hang out in podcasting groups and learn about the skills and the tech and all of that happened. And it really grabbed my interest. It just seemed like everything that I loved just wrapped up into this nice package. And on top of that all, people in podcasting groups are just really cool. I mean, this community is one of the most, I don't know, I find the community to be very open and inclusive and welcoming for the most part. I don't feel like, some communities you go to and newbies ask questions and then people just shoot them down and make them feel small. And I feel like that doesn't happen very much with the podcasting community. And that's important to me too. I want to hang out with people that are helping other people and lifting them up instead of, making other people feel badly about the things that they don't know. Because how can you learn if you don't ask questions? So I found myself in the podcasting groups and I had my own podcast for a while. It was a pet podcast. And, I started thinking about how I'm left out a part. So I have been also building websites for the last kind of as a side gig for the last probably since like 2008 or so. So it's been yikes. That's longer than I thought.
12 years. 12 years.
Yeah. Time flies.
That's all right.
Time flies.
That's all right.
So anyways, once I started being more involved in the podcasting groups, I realized that there was a natural fit for a lot of my skills, not just, with the communication piece, but also with the technical piece. And so I launched a company, and it's very new, called Podspout. And it is a technical platform, but it's really, really simple for users. And it's for podcasters to create custom link pages. So if you're familiar with, Linktree and things like that, I don't want to, annoy anybody at Linktree, but frankly, they're boring. You look at a Linktree page and it's just like a boring,
Yep.
And it doesn't, I felt like there was in the podcast community, people are unique. People want to share their voice. They want to share their own personal experience. And the technology and the tools didn't match up with showcasing what people actually had to offer. And not only that, a lot of podcasters were having trouble building their audiences and figuring out how to best disseminate the information and, the links that they need to actually effectively grow a following and to track how things are working. So hence Podspout comes together, and it is a platform where you can create your own link pages, but instead of being this like boring, these boring just links on top of each other that just looks kind of dull, you can actually embed your own, you can embed your podcast episode in there through Spotify and SoundCloud integration. You can put up a YouTube video if you had something that you wanted to showcase.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's you can integrate it with a bunch of your social media platforms, like if you had TikTok or some of the other ones.
This is pretty awesome
as well. So yeah, I literally just launched, and it's a soft launch. Like I haven't even really announced it yet. I have a couple of beta testers that are working with me to, help me just make sure that everything is good, because I want to provide, a really solid experience for people.
Right.
I'm a perfectionist. It's something that I have to work through. But on the other hand, when it comes to code, you want to make sure that it's working, because, my reputation is on the line too.
Hey, this is a great episode, right? Want to carry the insight from our show wherever you go? Visit myjoyisvaluable.com for the best resources that we've gathered that are inspired by expert guests. Find support for your business, tools to organize your life, and more. That's myjoyisvaluable.com.
Yeah, and I'm, I have like a small, tiny, very, very tiny, very tiny experience with code. And I do know that if there's a comma in the wrong place, everything goes to hell. So, so I appreciate, and I'm sure also the people who want to use Podspout will be appreciative of that. So that's great that you're doing the beta testing and things like that. I like to really dig into, because this sounds like really interesting. And I think some people also have ideas for, as my audience are people who want to help others, right? And who have those kinds of things. So let's think about when you decided that you had Podspout as a thing. Tell me what your first step was.
So, as far as the creation of the platform, so I did not design the code myself. I am a firm believer, if you are uncertain about something, then you call in an expert, and I had somebody help me with it. And so I had a developer help me with the front end, and that was, finding the right people to work on a job is of utmost importance, because I've been burned so many times before somebody claims that they can do something, and then as soon as they get access, everything goes down, and or they disappear for a week and a half, and so that sort of thing doesn't fly well with me. So finding the right people to do the job, I think, was really time consuming, but also the most important thing is, having a good team around you. So, I found a good developer to help me, create this code. And then I've been doing the modification side myself, and just having other people help me, freelancers help me. And I have a pretty solid team of people that I can call on, and I know that they're going to do a good job. So
that's
I have
great.
to say, get recommendations from people and do your research, and this was something that was really hard for me, was having to kind of release control of some of these things.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a control freak. Maybe my husband would disagree, but I just like things done right. And so I want to make sure that the people I team up with are gonna take the time to do it right, and that we all share those same values.
Right. And I think, it's important for people who like to help people. That's part of the reason that we like to help people. We want to make sure we're doing it the right way. And I think the fact that you were able to, as I said, the first step, like understand that there are certain things that you couldn't do, but that still didn't stop you. Still able to approach that in your way. So you were still able to approach and saying, okay, I'm a perfectionist, so I'm going to vet the people that I've worked with, especially because the product that you have is something that's going to be helping many other people, So I applaud you having that as, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm doing these things the right way. So
balance that control.
Yeah, I think that anybody who's running a business, especially, someone who's trying to do things that are helpful, it's important for you to have a team around you, and you can't build a team without trusting the team, So, wow. Okay. So, I'm wondering, so in the launch of this, right? So you're working, in very many different places. And as you said in the beginning, the connection of one love to another started to build a set of skills. How have you remained confident in the fact that you have like this wide range of skills when the world tends to say, well, find something and stick to it? How have you remained confident?
That is an awesome question. It is such a challenge. All right, so I went through, I mean, how many years of school? All right, so maybe 7 years of school to graduate and, become a certified speech language pathologist. And you're absolutely right. As a society, as a culture, we seem to want to assign ourselves like we are this. I am this thing. This is my career, is my identity almost. And it's been a real challenge to try to take myself out of this persona and realize that I am not my career. I am not, I'm not just one thing. I'm allowed to have multiple interests, and I'm allowed to have multiple skills, and I don't have to just be this one thing. But it still does feel sometimes like I'm kind of stepping out of a role and putting myself in another. Like I have to take off one hat. I got to take off my educator hat, and I got to put on my tech hat. But really, I'm the same person. I have so many things that I like, and I get bored, and I have to do it all, or I can't sustain something if I'm not challenged and moving forward all the time.
Yeah, and the audience that I have, we're what's called multipassionate. And so, for a while there had been this thought that multi-passionate people are flaky, and it's not that, it's just how we are wired, and so
Right.
being able to find a career, and I think we're gonna have to find another word for it than career. I like to call it vocation, because that's calling, as a linguistics vox vocation, so it's a calling. So I mean, we're wired a certain way, we're built a certain way, we have these multi things, and I mean, part of it also is we're multi-talented. So it'd be a different thing if you were just like, well, you're linguistics, and well, that's all that you can do, even though you're interested in these other things. But you went from, speech pathology, linguistic study to tech, and being able to manage front end and user experience and design and all that kind of stuff. So there is a calling for it, evidently. And I'm happy that, we get to benefit from, you following that calling.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I was talking, I have a coach that I work with, every week. And, that's something that's been really helpful for me. And I was telling him, the other day, I was like, I almost feel sometimes like I'm betraying like my my family or my parents. So the people who have, kind of put all of this pressure on me to succeed in this one area. And then I'm like, actually, I also really like to do this thing now. And so this all just kind of wraps up into what, you're saying, this vocation piece where it doesn't necessarily have to be one thing. And, I think so long as we're growing and we're challenging ourselves, it all builds together. And I can guarantee you, I have way more experiences that I can pull from than your average person who just got a job out of college and continued to work in that job for whatever 20 years, 30 years, or something like that. Not everybody can say that they've done all of these things, but it's given me a depth of experience and a depth of skills that I wouldn't trade, even though it took me a heck of a lot longer to get here than maybe somebody else who might have had a more direct path.
Right. And I think that's the other thing as well. There's a sense of longevity that we have, because in the midst of all kinds of interesting things, we can do the buzzword of the hour. We can pivot, so it's easy for people who have specialized in one particular direction to then now feel stagnant when it's cut out from under them. So I'm excited to see what Podspout is able to do, because Linktree is lovely, is absolutely lovely for what it is.
Right.
But it's interesting to have, to be able to have some options in the market. And I think, that's what keeps our market robust, right? So
Absolutely.
So let me ask you some deeper questions now. So we've got you, you're a tech founder, you're an educator, you love linguistics. So a couple of questions. So we have, what do you feel most passionate about right now?
Right now, I feel like I'm in the thick of this product launch. So getting this up and running, and just getting it live and getting it out to as many people as possible is really my number one focus. I've been spending a lot of time, behind the computer, especially after my kids go to bed. So, anywhere from 11 to 2 in the morning. And I'm really excited to get out from that, alone time where I'm just trying to tweak things with the sites and really do the thing that I love to do most, which is connect with people and help people. And, I'm one of those weird people that really likes to help people with tech. Like my mom brings the stuff to me. What's that?
That's really exciting, and we'll talk about how you're helping us launch something amazing at the end. But the fact that you're really passionate about helping people with tech, it's so needed, so not weird.
So many people I feel a lot of people are, my husband's great with tech, but he, as far as helping people who are having a challenge with it and walking them through, he's maybe not as excited about that piece. He's like, I'll do it and I'll let you know when it's done.
Right.
Whereas I like to give people the skills and give them the knowledge and kind of say, all right, here you go. Now show me what you can do.
You have a teacher's heart.
I do. Yep.
You do. It's okay. Having a teacher is absolutely relevant as well. So that's great. So okay, so beautiful that you're there. So then, interesting that you have the dichotomy in the household with your husband. How are you balancing? Because you said after the kids go to bed, like, do you sleep? How are you balancing family life and this, being a person who's founded a tech company?
It's a challenge. I'm not going to lie. It's a challenge. I'm very grateful that, I have the summers off. That's something that not a lot of people have. And so I've been given, this opportunity and of extra time that, like, say, not a lot of people have. So I'm very grateful for that. And I try to work when things are quiet. Back when my youngest was napping, that was a good time to get some stuff done. And now we just try to shift bedtimes to the early side. So we both have things to get done after, and we can still be productive and try to get to bed at a reasonable hour. But it's something that you just have to figure out what works best for you. I've been saying for probably 2 years now, I'm going to shift my schedule so I don't do my work at night. I'll get up at 4 a.m. and do my work then. But I've been a student. I was a student for so long, and my most productive time has always been from like 11 to 2-ish, and I have a hard time shaking that.
I mean, if it works for you at this point,
what works for me. So, but then when the kids jump on you at 6 a.m., you're like, oh, I wish I were up at 4. I would have gotten a jump start on today.
Right. I mean, if it's getting done, then at some point.
Yeah.
So,
Just
so interesting questions that you have, and it sounds also that you have a supportive family, which is great. Because I mean, it's
mhm.
hard. It's hard to do, great innovative things and have weird hours if your family is like, "Come on now, time to go to bed."
Right.
So
Right.
it's great that you have that. So, all right. So a couple of other questions just to get into a little bit more on the journey. What experience do you think you've had that's transformed you?
Oh my gosh. Just one.
Ah,
I have to say, as it seems kind of cliche, but I'd say probably being a parent has transformed me. Just it's made me more aware of the perspective, and not to say that I didn't have the ability to, put myself in somebody else's shoes beforehand, but being a parent and then also working around kids, especially kids with communication disorders, has been pretty transformative. Just learning about everybody's different perspective and how, like, what makes different people tick. And I've always been really good with figuring out adults and how they work, and their little personality nuances. But kids are just they're a different world. And being able to work with them has just totally opened my eyes to all sorts of things, and this their way of looking at the world. It's just really refreshing, and it kind of takes you back and makes you reevaluate what's important.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And I love that they're truth tellers, that they're like very much like, that's not what that I saw.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. It's like
Oh, yeah.
you can't put anything past them, which is great. And at
Mhm.
least for me, I feel that they remind me that being authentic is good, and so yeah.
Right. That they observe so many things that we just take for granted, that we miss.
Yeah.
And they'll point something out. I mean, for instance, my daughter the other day, we were watching uh we were watching some show on TV. I think it was the Wildcrats. They were talking about monkeys and how they were hanging from their tails. And I was like, oh yeah, that's like Curious George. And my oldest turned to me, she goes, Curious George hangs from his feet. I was like, really? He's a monkey. He hangs from his tail. Of course. She's like, no, he doesn't have a tail.
That
Are
is
you kidding
true.
me? So I like
Yep.
took out my phone. I started looking up. I was like, Curious George is an ape. Holy cow. Like a
Completely forgot.
6-year-old. I've been watching Curious George and reading these books since I was a kid.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about that. That is right. As you said that, I was like, oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I
So
love that
you
they
just
take that much attention.
yeah. So who knows what sorts of things they're categorizing? I mean, I better be more careful.
Oh my gosh. So let me see. I love asking deeper questions. Because you've given us a lot of technical knowledge, but I also want the audience to see that I want them to see themselves in your story. So, what do you think people misunderstand about you?
um, I think going back to this whole I have different people that know me as different things. And so I think it's hard for people to kind of take me out of one role and see me as something different. So I would say, people are always surprised when, I tell them what I'm working on, outside of, they see me as an educator. They see me as a speech pathologist. And so taking taking me out of that role is it and telling them that I'm also something else and working on other things. It's I think it's something that surprises people. And they're like, "Wow, how'd you even learn how to do that?" I don't know. I like to mess around with stuff. I'm a tinkerer. So I'd say that's something that might surprise somebody. And just And then the other thing that always surprises people, this is always my go-to, when everybody's like, um, tell us one weird fact about yourself that nobody else, or that nobody would know, that everybody would be surprised about. And I'll tell them, oh, I lived on a boat in the canal in London for a year. That always shocks people.
Oh,
And
that sounds like a really wonderful adventure.
except that it was 20 feet long, so it was a kind of cramped adventure.
Oh,
It was
wow.
myself and my husband, yeah, before we were married.
Oh my gosh. But then, if you can live, see, this is like the aphorism. If you can live on a boat with somebody for a year.
Yep. That's what I said. Neither one of us ended up in the canal, so, I guess it was meant to be.
Meant to be. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
So what's the best compliment someone could give you?
The best compliment that somebody could give me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what compliment would. I don't. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Holy cow.
So think about it, and then
Yeah.
like if you come up with an answer, don't worry, or if you don't come up with an answer, it's so I work with the women to do public speaking, and one of the big why I like this particular question is one of the big things that a lot of people who want to help and a lot of people who want to share a message, they struggle with getting the messages returned, the messages of, oh, you changed my life and things like that. So I like for people to think about what are compliments that you are comfortable receiving. And so so think about it, and if you got something, let us know. So we're gonna start to wrap up, but this is an important question. As somebody who's a tech founder, what are you most worried about?
I guess I think probably most people that are involved with tech are concerned with, um, you know, they want to make sure that things work right. I want to provide an amazing user experience, so that's super important to me. And would say that I'm also concerned about security, just because y- you put all this work into something, and then you don't want something or somebody to come along and mess it all up. And I'm very protective of my babies, and I want to make sure that everything, continues to work well. So I'd say security, and just, making sure that things are working in the way that and providing a good experience that my customers would expect.
That's good. Well, we will definitely share the Podspout's information in the link to this episode. We'll
Fabulous.
definitely spread the word, because it's wonderful to have options. So tell us where we can find you.
Sure. Yeah. So podspout.com. So that's podspout.com is our website. And you can go on there and you can see I have a little screen recording at the top where you can actually see what the dashboard looks like. And I've created a few different templates and just some things to give people an idea of some of the possibilities that are available with this tool. And like I said, I'm 100% involved in this. If somebody emails me or, contacts me through the form in that site, it's me that you're going to get. And, I respond to everything personally. So, I want to help people. And, at this stage of the game, I am going to help every single person myself until it becomes so overwhelming that I can't do it. And I'll need to bring more people in.
That's good. Well, by that time, you'll have a clear idea and understanding of any particular concerns that your client base has. So when you're bringing in
Right.
people, you'll be able to bring in the right new people who get that.
Absolutely.
So excited that you have the hands-on. I'm really excited about the partnership that we're going to be starting together this month.
Yeah.
And so we will, for the listeners, we will let you know what that partnership is very soon. You can sign on. Leanne's Podspout will be a prominent link on our partnership, as well, so that you can get there and download and things like that right there. And really, really excited to work with you. So thank you so much for being with us today, Leanne.
Thank you, Narissa. It's been a lot of fun.
Yay.
Thank you for tuning in to 10,000 Women, 10,000 Stages. Share this episode with someone who needs it. Find us at 10,000women10,000stages.com.